Today, we're going to talk about the gun bill that will be before the legislature. Back in October, the House of Representatives passed a gun bill, and the Senate will be coming out with its own version of the gun bill probably in the early part of February. So I have with me today a member of the Centerville Sportsman's Club, which is not in Centerville, but in Dracut, and also a trainer, right,
Yes,
for guns, Jim DeSecker. Jim, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Senator.
So, first of all, I guess, what do you think of the House version of the bill, and what would be your objections to that bill as it stands now?
I have a lot of objections to the bill. I basically think that it has absolutely no value. Okay. To support that, one thing that in the actual testimony for the original bill that was filed, every chief of police in the state, both municipal and college, unanimously voted against the bill. They feel it has absolutely no value. Okay. If I could give you a quote from one representative I was in contact with, he said, "Third grade logic dictates that it is irrational to believe that passing further restrictive licensing laws will in any way influence the behaviors of violent criminals." So there's nothing in this bill that addresses mental health or violence. Okay. It's only more restrictions on people who already follow the law.
Okay. And can you be more specific than that, or is that just the general
there's so much in the bill. A few things I have here. One, for instance, restricts off-duty law enforcement professionals. Today, law enforcement officials, policemen, whatever, have their duty weapons, and more often than not, they carry what's considered high-capacity magazines in the course of doing their job, which means they carry more than 10 rounds of ammunition. Okay? When they go off-duty, they are only allowed to carry their service weapon, but they have to change it to what they call non-high-capacity weapons, magazines, so they can only carry less than 10. Okay. Personally, and any citizen in the state today can only have a 10-round magazine, no more than 10, which is sort of ludicrous when the criminals out there have anything they want.
Right.
15, 20, there are some handguns out there that can have 30-round magazines. Why should we be limited to just 10 rounds to be able to defend ourselves? Okay.
So I think one of the issues is semi-automatic weapons and automatic weapons. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of it is if you have a detachable magazine, mm-hmm. And then maybe one other thing like something else that goes on the gun, maybe a second handle, so you can hold it with two hands mm-hmm. rather than one. Do you have what's your position on semi-automatic and automatic weapons? I mean, is there a need for automatic weapons?
First of all, it is so extremely hard to have an automatic weapon. Yep. There's so much misinformation about there with the ARs. Let me ask you, in your knowledge, what is AR for?
I don't know.
Okay. The media portrays it as automatic rifle, assault rifle. By technical definition, they are neither.
Yep.
Okay. An automatic rifle, one squeeze of the trigger can empty the magazine. Okay. A semi-automatic rifle, you squeeze the trigger, one round. Okay. So automatic rifles, they're extremely expensive. They're very hard to get. You have to have a federal license, which takes a long time to get. So this information that these people are running around with automatic rifles is total falsehood.
So your club or you probably has no objection to banning automatic weapons?
Banning,
or making them illegal.
I have a problem with making them illegal. They're already so difficult to get, and most people don't necessarily want them.
Yes.
You know, they're
Right.
more a plaything, if you will. I hate to
No, but
put it in that term,
yeah.
but you know,
Right.
I've never in my life fired an automatic weapon.
Right.
Never even held one.
Okay.
Again, not many manufacturers make them.
Yes.
And they're very, the ones that you can get are very expensive, very hard to get.
What
Your average responsible
Yeah.
citizen does nothing with automatic
Okay.
weapons.
What about ghost guns, ghost weapons?
Okay? Let me ask you again, what's your information on ghost
They
guns?
would be, my information would be those would be guns that you can, get over the internet, build the gun yourself and then
Okay.
you have it that way.
Yeah.
So that ultimately you don't need to have it registered, I suppose, right? If you're doing it
Right.
that way.
I see the challenges in that. However, keep in mind, this country was built on ghost guns. The revolutionaries had to make their own guns, and King George came over and tried to take them. Okay, so going back in history. So yeah, many people assemble their own guns. Okay, I have built my own guns from a kit. Mine are quote unquote registered.
Okay.
Okay, and there are criminals out there who, with 3D printers or somehow, get kits, what have you. However, in most of them, the different components of a gun, one portion is called the lower receiver. For me to buy just the lower receiver to build a kit, that still has to be registered. Okay, so everything else, I put that gun is still known out there.
Okay.
Okay, now there are ones that come as incomplete kits, so there's no serialization of them
Yeah.
or anything on that. If I built one of those, I keep it at home, I take it to the range and shoot it, bring it home. How dangerous is that to society? Okay?
Right.
Again, I admit there are criminals getting around that, but they get around every law anyways.
Right.
So again, just banning them only puts more restrictions on me.
Okay.
You know,
What about red flag provisions?
I think they're a big challenge because they can be misused.
Yes. But don't you?
And where we should be concentrating more is just on mental health.
Right.
Again, if you can take care of a problem before it becomes a problem, then we don't have an issue of something like that. I've seen cases where boyfriend, girlfriend have a fight, serious fight.
Yes.
Girlfriend runs to the police, she has guns, I'm afraid of them.
Yep.
They come and take his guns, no questions asked.
Right.
I think that's a problem.
Sure, but many mental health issues are more complex than that, and difficult for families to deal with. But if you had a person in your family or someone that you knew that had mental health issues, serious mental health issues, and maybe even made threatening remarks, then you wouldn't object to taking their guns away, right? Or would you?
Well, I think there have to be better provisions on taking, a serious case. We don't want anybody endangering anybody else, period. What the challenge has always been is that situation resolves, he's fine, she's fine. Half the time he doesn't get his guns back.
Right.
So I know the Gun Owners Action League for years has been pushing for mental health and against red flag laws because they are highly abused in situations like I just mentioned.
Right. Maybe they are abused from time to time, but it does seem that, and it's a little bit more than anecdotally at this point, that a lot of the stuff that you see on the media involving gun violence has to do with people that have mental health issues. In particular, probably the most notorious and recent one was the one up in Maine. It was, I think, in Bangor, Maine, right, where everybody knew that guy.
I think it was Lewiston, but
Maybe
whatever, it was Maine.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
I
and
guess
that
those
was a
cities are-
complete failure of the system.
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
So if the system had done its job, that probably never would have happened.
Right.
And on another point, in our training, I now have over 850 students
Yeah.
that I've had for licensing or just individual training or what have you. Every one of them, part of our talk is, a part of the training is recognizing and helping with mental health issues. I put a big responsibility on every student to have the proper attitude as a firearms owner. Part of that is protecting others against themselves.
Okay.
You know, it is, if it gets done, it gets done. But if that gets done before it becomes an issue, I tell people, hey, you're having some trouble. Let's make sure nothing bad happens. Give me your guns.
Okay. One of the things that I didn't realize until a few months ago when I started doing some research on the gun bill was that it is an Olympic sport, right? Shooting
Correct.
guns is an Olympic sport, and it's also an NCAA sport as well.
Correct.
And when I was out to the Centerville Sportsman's Club in Drake to meet with you guys and you, one of the things that came up was education and whether or not there should be an educational component in the bill. Can you talk about that, or what do you think that Massachusetts should do in terms
One of the
education?
things that irritates me most about the bill, okay? I grew up in Somerville. We didn't do a lot of gun stuff, but my dad, we had an air rifle.
Yeah.
And he would take me out in the backyard or down in the cellar, and he'd teach me how to shoot cans and what have you. So that was, early gun training. And now, if this new bill passes, no one under 15 can have any kind of firearms training.
Right.
No Cub Scout merit badge, Boy Scout merit badge. You can't take your grandsons hunting.
Right.
That to me is so un-American that, it's egregious, if you ask me.
So
they can't participate in any kind of shooting sports. How are they going to get to the Olympics if they can't start shooting,
Well, right. And so you'd wonder how does anybody get to the Olympics, I guess. But there's probably other states where they do have that type of training that's offered. And so is that something that you would propose for Massachusetts? Do you think
I
Massachusetts should
think,
have a...
like so many other things, we should start at young ages. Again, all my students, part of it is training your household.
Yeah.
If there's kids in the house, maybe they can't have the guns or touch them, but they need to know the safety rules, what to do if they go somewhere and they see a gun, all that kind of stuff. Groups like the NRA and USCCA have training programs for kids, for
Okay.
adults to teach kids and for kids
Okay.
to learn. So I think we should be in the schools.
Right.
Even, not necessarily, at some point you can actually teach them to shoot
Right.
responsibly, but along the way you teach them to have the respect for guns.
Right.
I see too much, so many kids think that what they see, in Call of Duty and, violent video games and TV shows, they think that's the real world.
Right.
When it's far from it.
Right. And I think a lot of times, too, they don't have a realization of just how permanent the damage that they can do is, right?
Right.
So you would, and I don't want to speak for you, but you would think that if there was an educational component in the bill, that would help to prevent some of the incidents that have taken
Right.
place in schools.
And
elsewhere.
I liken it to, where do you want your kids to learn about sex? On the street? Probably not. Same thing with guns.
Right.
They learn at home, learn in the schools, learn the, ramifications of actions. Then, they grow up better and more responsible. So I'm a big proponent. I wish we could start tomorrow in the schools. I really do.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Senate version of the gun bill will come out probably in the beginning of February and be taken up sometime in February. It might spill over into March, but it'll be around that time. And, the Senate is trying to be, the people that are putting the bill together are trying to be very thoughtful in what goes into the bill, both by taking a look at what the House did in their version, but also, too, they've met with police chiefs. Because I think we need the support of the police chiefs in the bill.
Absolutely.
So hopefully it'll be, that's how that will be. Do you have any statistics on gun violence?
I have some, yes. And as far as statistics goes, I'm very cautious with what I like, because an old saying is numbers, statistics, and damn lies.
Right.
Okay? So I barely look at anything that I know comes out from a partisan group.
Yes.
Because, just for one instance, in testimony for this most recent bill, one person from a anti-gun group got up and said that they canvassed gun owners, and 84% of them agree that the bill is good.
Yeah.
Okay? You won't find 84 responsible gun owners in total that will find anything good about this bill. So when I hear things like that, it's just,
Right. Okay.
So, but what I have here is one of our friends. I have a couple of copies for you. Okay. There's one. This is, and it's not totally gun related, but it's more just violence related. And this, as you can see, is a report taken from the FBI's crime reports.
Yep.
And it reports of violent crimes per 100,000 residents, okay? Unfortunately, this one only goes up to 2020, but I think it's still indicative
Right.
of what we want to look at. So if you flip over, you see on the last page, Massachusetts is rated 34th out of 52 jurisdictions, okay?
Right.
Can I help you with that?
So the other states with less restrictive laws than what
That's
Massachusetts
one thing
has
I was,
now.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to point out.
They claim to be safer. You think that's true? You think
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so here's Massachusetts 34.
Yep.
Okay, go down and with 308.8 per 100,000. Go down to number 49.
Right.
Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are all what we call constitutional carry states.
Yep.
They don't require permits.
Okay.
Okay, I think that is very powerful.
Yes.
And if you go around the country, cities like Detroit, Chicago, New York City, they're not in here but if you just, listen to the news,
Yes.
extremely violent, worse than here, but they have very restrictive gun laws.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I noticed out of the 6 New England states, Massachusetts is 30. Is the highest of all of those states. Right. New Hampshire and Maine are at the bottom of the list. 51 and 52.
Right.
But I think opponents would point out that the population in Massachusetts is much greater than New Hampshire or
Yeah,
Maine.
that I guess is an argument, but again, look at like Detroit and Chicago. Very restrictive gun laws, extremely high crime rates and gun crime rates.
Right.
So the thing is, again, it doesn't take third grade intellect to know that a criminal is not going to respect the law.
Right.
So putting more laws in, we don't even enforce the laws that we have now,
Right.
okay? Or they selectively enforce them.
Okay.
Let me give you 2 names,
Sure.
okay? One, Jack Jones,
Yep.
okay? Jack Jones was a cornerback for the Patriots. This summer, he was arrested at the airport because he had 2 loaded firearms and 3 magazines in his carry-on luggage. He did not have a Massachusetts permit,
Right.
okay? Supposedly, he had applied for his permit, which allows you to have the guns for 180 days.
Right.
Okay? Those guns are not supposed to leave your home until you physically have a permit. And nowhere in the world can you take firearms, loaded or unloaded, in your carry-on luggage. Okay?
Yep.
So he had high-capacity magazines. They were more than 10 rounds. They were loaded. He was in the airport, and they were in his baggage.
Right.
Okay? They let him go.
Yep.
Okay? The district attorney said that, or the prosecutor, whoever it was, said, well, we couldn't really prove that he knew they were in there. Okay?
Okay.
I think that's a sham.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Another one, Sean Gannon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. He's a policeman.
Yeah.
Okay? A couple of years ago, he was sent on a call with others and his dog to arrest a person for distributing fentanyl.
Right.
Okay? They went to a couple of locations. He wasn't there. They went to another one. They searched the house, didn't find him. Okay? But then they were not totally certain, so they went back in.
Yes.
And Sean and his dog Nero climbed up into a crawl space in the attic.
Yeah.
When they went in there, Sean Gannon shot both of them in the head.
Okay.
Okay? Sean died. The dog actually lived with some heroic efforts from EMTs and what have you. But
Yep.
the deal was this shooter, felon, had 130 prior felonies.
Okay.
I think something like 30 of them were gun-related. What's he doing on the street?
Right.
There's no law and order.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing, if you watch the news every morning, it aggravates me so much. It starts out with some kind of shooting,
Okay.
okay? And you'll find, if you go back through the rolls on this, you'll find it's all people with previous felonies, you know, previous issues with the law, but they're out on the street,
Right.
you know? And that's where the problem is.
So if I wanted to get a gun, and I don't own a gun, but if I wanted to, then I would have to take your course, right?
Correct.
And how many hours would that be?
The one we offer is about 4 hours.
Okay. And what would you teach me in that course? What would
We
I-
go over a number of different things. The basics of all different kinds of firearms,
Yep.
okay? We delve into the law as best we can,
Yep.
okay, knowing what you have to know. Of course, all kinds of safety issues. The overwhelming theme of the course is safety, attitude, and responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, as a gun owner. As I tell my students, this is week one, day one, or day one, week one of basic training. Okay, you're not leaving here like John Wick or Rambo or something like that.
Right.
You're getting enough to apply for your permit and then go on to further training. I make my students raise their hand. They're getting further training in everything, not just how to shoot the gun. Defensive law, you know, all that kind of stuff. The psychological issues that you have to be. And I tell them, if all you do is get your license and buy a gun, you're just a guy with a gun.
Right.
If you don't get any, you know, to be an armed citizen, you have to learn so much more.
So you've been teaching this for years, right?
A few years, yeah. When I retired, I delved into this more.
Okay. So do you wish there was more training than 4 hours? Do you wish it was 6 or 8?
We do
or
have
maybe
other
multi-day,
courses
or-
that we teach,
Yep.
you know, in various topics, you know, some more detailed than what we get.
But those would be electives, right? In other words, in order to get
Well,
a gun, I
some
don't
of
have
them
to-
you can use these other courses for your permit.
Yeah.
You know, the one we're offering right now at Centralville is the home firearm safety course.
Okay, and that's 4 hours, and then if somebody from my staff is going to be taking that course
Right.
tomorrow, and so when they finish that, they could then go and apply for a gun, and they would be able to have a firearm?
Correct, as long as they're not a prohibited person.
Right, which they're not. So, but my question is, in your experience, do you see like, oh man, I wish I had a couple more hours to teach this, or I wish we added this as a, do you know what I mean?
Being me, the teacher, I want everybody to do more training.
Right,
You know, do I demand it? Sort of. But I just help it. Most of my people know they come back for more,
yeah.
you know.
And so,
And,
when you take your course, how much time do you spend actually shooting a firearm?
we probably take about half an hour
Okay.
of the course.
And what would they be shooting? Would be a,
We have them shoot a single action revolver
yes,
and a semi-auto pistol in a very low caliber, so they can and we teach them the basics. You know, it's like any art or sport. The better you can perfect the basics, the better you'll shoot.
What about like a hunting rifle or something?
Okay,
No?
there are separate courses for that. There are hunter education courses. There are rifle training courses. We go over the basics of rifles and everything and how they work, but we actually, in this particular course, we don't do any shooting with rifles because we're indoor.
Okay. So, you know, as I said, I think that the Senate's version of the bill will probably be very thoughtful because they're spending a lot of time on it and consulting with a lot of people. But what I wonder is, what would you put in the bill? If you were, if we commissioned you to write the bill, what would you put in there? And you kind of answer nothing.
You took the words out of my mouth. I will say I don't think we need any more bills.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. If we have to have something, and one thing going back to the existing bill, the requirements that they put in for a person to be able to get their LTC, the license to carry,
Yes.
is more than many law enforcement people get.
Yes.
You know, and some of it is contradictory.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to have active shooter training.
Right.
Well, a civilian with a gun can't react to an active shooter situation because
Right.
we can't go into school with a gun.
Right.
So you're going to train us to do something. You're going to require us to train for something that we can't do.
Okay.
You know, and so I wish I could talk with the Senate, or people like me could, or other senators would, and I commend you for doing this. You know, I think it's important that you don't just go by what, you know, some of the anti-gun groups out there tell you
Right.
or what you hear, you know.
Well, it's a big issue, and I think, you know, it's somewhat polarizing. I think there are people who see the gun violence that goes on the media and the news for years now in schools and supermarkets and elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so for them, and if they don't have a gun, for them it would be just, well, let's ban all guns. So
Right.
You don't need guns.
And I think that makes us less safe.
And then you've got people who would be like the people in your club, I suspect, who you know, cling to the Second Amendment and think that guns are an important part for self-defense,
Right,
but also for recreation.
right. Because one
I don't know
thing,
if maybe hunting's not recreation.
Right.
Maybe it's a bad word, but
one thing you don't hear are the situations where a gun owner saves somebody. You
Right.
know, you don't see that on the news.
Right.
There are reportedly millions of them every year in the United States, but they're just not reported.
right.
You know, so and again, I think a bill like this that's out there makes us less safe. You know, another restriction is, let's say I'm your neighbor and you're in trouble and I come in with my gun to help you. If you haven't posted physically on your property that gun owners are allowed on your property, I would be arrested for going in there to help you.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that is ludicrous.
Well, also there was in the House version, I think there was a part that said that if you're a police officer but you're off duty, you shouldn't be carrying a firearm.
The original bill in
Had that.
the political machinations they went through on this was criminal, but we probably don't have time for me to go in that.
No, we're running out of time. But
Right.
listen, I want to thank you very much. I
Right.
think this is a big issue, and it's something that polarizes the citizens in the Commonwealth. So I think it's good to get, you know, both sides of the argument, and hopefully the Senate's version will be something that will make the anti-gun owners feel more safe and gun owners feel more safe
I hope
as
so
well.
too, because that is what we want,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and willing to contribute however we can.
So that's it. I think we're running out of time. I want to thank Jim DeCecca for coming in, and we'll see you next time on the Beacon Hill Buzz. Thank you very much.